A very warm good evening to all our viewers. My name is Matthias Haufiku, news editor of the Namibia Sun newspaper. Welcome to another exciting edition of the Evening Review Show. Tonight we speak urban agriculture, horticulture. But before we get to that, let's first have a look at tomorrow's headlines. Just a disclaimer from us as a team. I'm just here to do the introduction. My colleague Jesaya Shipingana will conduct the show for tonight. Thank you.
Welcome to Evening Review. My name is Jesaya Shipingana. Food sustainability remains a big challenge in Namibia. We are speaking to horticulturist Jesaya Shipingana. He will talk to us about the work that he's doing as a trainer in this area. Thank you for joining us, Jesaya.
Yes, good evening, Jesaya. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. So, Jesaya, what is horticulture about?
Horticulture itself is a Latin American word, which means hort itself means garden, and the culture means it's a cultural way how they do agriculture at a time. So in other words, we just inherit it and we adopted it. It's an adoptive word that we just adoptive. But if I apply it to the current situation, is that it's a way of producing vegetable on a small area, either for human consumption, family consumption, or a little bit of income. But it's a way where everybody else is not going to be left out in terms of nutrition, because you then found that if people do not practice what is so-called horticulture, then they will miss out on a nutrition, because they pile up a certain cereal which does not contain all the nutrients, and that's my opinion, how I understand it.
So this
never applied.
Okay, so this cereal that you are talking about that people are piling up, what cereal is it usually commonly?
You see, for instance, like in Namibia, we have what's so-called monoculture or subsistence farming, where people are concentrating on a single product. Let me be specified on cereals. We got what's so-called, for instance, the grains like mahangu, maize, beans, and so on, sorghum. And by so doing, you do then lack certain nutrition or nutrient, or the balance that is not halfway met. You understand? And by so doing, the modernizing or modern way of doing things have diverted from that way. In other words, we are no more longer practice agriculture to a modern way, I mean to old way or to old fashion, but to apply a current technology. But when I say technology, it's a general word. Let me simplify it, is that we apply appropriate technology that is accommodatable, that is flexible within our environment or at our disposal. Because when you apply just the technology that is not appropriate to our people, then it's also got another meaning. And by so doing, you might have got things wrong.
You're talking about methods that may not be appropriate to local people, and the fact that people are not pushing agriculture like they used to do in the olden days. Land. People do not have land. How important is land when it comes to horticulture?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Land is one of the problematic in this country. That's the very big problematic. It's a constraint. It's a challenge, especially for myself, that I'm trying to convince people to come on the board so that we can have the same way, or so that we can have the same direction in order for us to achieve the question of food insecurity among ourselves, whether it's a continental level, at the world level, and at the national level. But when I said the methodologies, the mechanism, the tactics that we are applying currently have to do with understanding is that we only, like I said earlier, we only have what's so-called the subsistence farming, or we have what's so called, I don't want to apply it, but let me apply this word, we call it rudimentary sedimentary tillage. So rudimentary sedimentary tillage is that we got a limited information on how to do agriculture. So which means we need to go in our device so that we apply a methodology that will be useful to us and to everybody else who is going to engage or who is going to involve within the process.
So as a trainer, what does your work as a trainer entail?
You see, the point how I come to say a trainer is that I found there's a need because in the past I see people talking about food insecurity, but then they don't apply, because when you talk of food, you should be guided by the components. And these components are only found, or they were already laid by the United Nations through the Food and Agriculture Organization, which is FAO. Namely, we say utilization, for instance, stability, accessibility, and availability. Now, stability means, does it have what it requires? As maybe, for instance, by the doctor prescription in your daily diet. Availability is that when it's needed, will the people able to have access to it? We just don't go there. And utilization, will you be able to use it? I mean, that's a short of it and long of it. Because you cannot just say utilization, because I can give you food, but you might not know how to use it to meet your daily requirement in terms of your diet or in terms of what you require. You understand? And therefore, the United Nations, which is the world governing body, have put up a platform that is guiding us whenever we are trying to produce food. You don't just go and start producing food. Therefore, I always say, we talk of botanists, we talk of microbiologists, we talk of veterinarians, and so on. So we bring all these people on board, including even the health inspector, so that they see exactly what you are producing is fitting for human consumptions.
So as a trainer, do you go around the country to train people, or how do you do it?
Yeah, at the moment, when I just started, trying to bring government on board, individual, like the community, the municipalities, because you see, like in Windhoek, where I'm advocating for this, but I should make it clear that I do not want this to be centralized in the Windhoek itself, yes, but it should be a national issue, which need to be decentralized to different regions. In other words, what I mean is that I wish, because if I say I want, it's too demandable. So I do not want to demand that every region should then have the same program. That is my wish, because that my ambitions is to that in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, we have then what is called self-sufficient in terms of food production. But we can only achieve this if we engaged all our 14 regions, governments, the municipalities, the community member, and everybody else as Namibians. So by so doing, we then reduce the yoke of poverty, the yoke of dependence, job creations, because we got a higher rate of unemployment, if I might say, malnutrition and poverty. You understand? As well as the living standard of our people. And then we talk of also a bit of GBV, which is a gender-based violence, because people are engaged, people are busy, engaging themselves in activities that are not profitable, and by so doing, it will end up now causing a collision and unnecessary fights. You understand? So, but if we can then come in and say, okay, fine, what are we going to do? And this is a question that I'm trying to answer, but I do not want to centralize myself to say me. I want to say we as a Namibian, because I'm plowing back actually of what I have achieved, because I have gone international to acquire the necessary skills which I had already before, just to add up so that I can at least be within that boundary to convince, to implement through dedication, commitment,
Yes.
and through teaming up. Because the word team itself is okay, fine. We are teaming up. Now, the word team for me, it means together, everybody achieve more within that team. You understand? That's a team. If you have to separate all those words, I mean, all those letters. So you cannot do it on your own. But then, on such platform where you bring people on board and say, okay, fine, what is the way to go? How are we going to do it? You engage other people so that you can then have the same commonality and objectives or goals that are targeting the interests of the nation, not individuals. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us, Jesaya.
No problem.
Thank you for tuning in.